A janitor, ridiculed for years, inherits a crumbling house everyone called worthless. But when he tears down a wall, he uncovers a secret that stuns the art world and rewrites his destiny. This is the unbelievable story of how the overlooked became unstoppable. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss an inspiring true story like this one. The house everyone laughed at. The bell above the diner door jingled as Ethan Cole stepped inside. His shoulders hunched against the biting November wind. The warmth of Rosie's diner wrapped around him like an old, familiar blanket, coffee, bacon grease, and the faintest hint of lemon cleaner. He slid onto his usual stool at the counter, the vinyl seat cracked with age but still holding strong. Just like him. Maggie, the diner's sharp-tongued waitress and his only real friend, didn't even look up from pouring his coffee. "You're late," she said, sliding the chipped mug toward him. "Principal kept you again?" Ethan wrapped his hands around the warmth, the calluses on his palms catching against the ceramic. "Basketball team had a victory party. In the locker room," he muttered. "Confetti, soda, the whole 9 yards. Maggie snorted. "And let me guess, Coach Thompson just shrugged and said, 'Boys will be boys?'" Ethan's mouth twitched. She knew the drill. 23 years as a janitor at Rustboro High, and nothing ever changed. The kids mocked him Mr. Dustrag, old mop and bucket, and the faculty acted like he was part of furniture. Invisible, disposable. He took a slow sip of coffee, the bitterness grounding him. Then Maggie slapped an envelope down in front of him. "Came for you yesterday. Looks official." Ethan frowned. Nobody sent him mail. His parents were long gone, and the rest of his family had either left Rustboro or forgotten about him. He tore open the envelope, his fingers leaving smudges on the crisp paper. Notice of inheritance. His breath hitched. The letter was from a law firm in Albany. His uncle, his father's estranged brother, a man he'd met maybe twice in his life, had passed away, and he'd left Ethan something. A house. Maggie leaned over, reading upside down. "Wait, old man Cole had a house? I thought he lived in that trailer out by the quarry." Ethan's pulse thudded in his ears. "Not that one. The Victorian. On Sycamore." Maggie's eyebrows shot up. "The haunted one?" The whole town knew the place. A crumbling, sagging monster of a house. Its paint peeling, its porch groaning under the weight of neglect. Kids dared each other to throw rocks at its windows. Local realtors called it a teardown. And now it was his. The next afternoon, Ethan stood in front of 214 Sycamore Street, a rusted key in his hand. The November sky hung low and gray, threatening snow. The house loomed over him, its empty windows like hollow eyes. "You're really going to go in there?" Ethan turned. Tommy Riggs, a cocky high school senior who'd once accidentally spilled a slushie down Ethan's back, leaned against his truck, smirking. "Heard it's full of black mold," Tommy said. "And rats. Big ones." Ethan ignored him, gripping the key tighter. He didn't owe this kid an explanation. The front door groaned in protest as he pushed it open. The air inside was thick with dust and the sour tang of mildew. Floorboards creaked under his weight as he stepped inside, his flashlight cutting through the gloom. The place was a disaster. Piles of yellowed newspapers, broken furniture, a lifetime of hoarding left to rot. But beneath the grime, Ethan could see the bones of something beautiful. Carved moldings, a grand staircase, a fireplace with intricate tilework. Something glinted in the flashlight's beam. A framed photo on the mantel, buried under dust. Ethan wiped it clean with his sleeve. A young man in a soldier's uniform stared back at him. His uncle, but not the bitter recluse Ethan remembered. This man was smiling, his arm around a woman in a flowered dress. Happy, hopeful. Ethan's throat tightened. What had happened to him? A loud crack shattered the silence. The floor gave way beneath him. Ethan crashed into the darkness below, landing hard on his side. Pain shot through his ribs as he gasped for air. His flashlight had tumbled away, its beam flickering against the dirt floor of a hidden crawl space. And then he saw it. Propped against the crumbling foundation was a canvas, its edges frayed, but its colors still vibrant beneath the dust. A wild, swirling explosion of paint, angry reds, desperate blues, a frenzy of brushstrokes that seemed to pulse in the dim light. and in the corner, a signature. De Kooning. Ethan's breath stopped. No, it couldn't be. But the name burned in his mind. A name he'd seen in art books and documentaries about stolen masterpieces. A name worth millions. Above him, the house groaned, as if warning him. Someone else knew, and they were coming. The name in the dust. Ethan's fingers trembled as he reached out, brushing the dust from the corner of the canvas. The signature stared back at him. De Kooning. Clear as day. His heart hammered against his ribs like it was trying to escape. This can't be real. He'd seen enough PBS documentaries to recognize the name. Willem de Kooning, one of the giants of abstract expressionism. A painting like this, lost, stolen, or forgotten, could be worth. He couldn't even fathom the number. The crawl space smelled of damp earth and rot. Ethan grabbed the flashlight, its beam shaky in his grip as he scanned the area. The painting wasn't alone. Tucked behind it were 3 smaller works, their colors muted by time, but their energy still crackling beneath the grime. All signed, all real. His uncle, the quiet, bitter man who'd lived like a ghost, had somehow owned a treasure. Ethan's mind raced. Why hide them? Who else knew? A floorboard creaked above him. He froze. The sound hadn't come from the settling of the old house. It was deliberate. Footsteps. Someone was inside. Ethan's blood turned to ice. He clicked off the flashlight, plunging himself into darkness. The crawl space was tight, the air thick with the scent of mildew and his own rising panic. Above him, the footsteps moved slowly, deliberately, pausing near the hole in the floor. A voice, low and rough, muttered, "Where the hell is it?" Ethan held his breath. Another voice answered, younger, nervous. "You sure this is the right house?" "Positive. Old man Cole had it. Now shut up and look." Ethan's pulse roared in his ears. They were hunting for the paintings. The beam of a flashlight cut through the darkness above, sweeping across the broken floorboards. Ethan pressed himself deeper into the shadows, his back against the cold foundation. A sliver of light caught the edge of the de Kooning canvas. No. The beam paused. "Hey!" The rough voice sharpened. "Down there." Ethan didn't wait. He grabbed the nearest painting, the smallest one, and shoved it inside his jacket. Then, moving on pure instinct, he kicked out at the foundation's rotting wood. A plank splintered, revealing a narrow gap just big enough to squeeze through. Dirt and cobwebs clung to him as he wriggled out into the cold evening air. The backyard was overgrown, weeds reaching his knees. He didn't look back. He ran. The Rustboro Public Library was a squat brick building that smelled of old paper and industrial cleaner. Ethan hunched over a computer in the back corner, his head pulled up, the stolen painting a burning weight against his chest. He typed with shaking fingers, de Kooning stolen paintings. The screen flooded with results. A 1985 heist at the Whitney Museum. 4 works, never recovered. Among them, Woman in a Garden, a swirling, violent masterpiece valued at over $30 million. Ethan's stomach dropped. He clicked through grainy photos. The painting in his uncle's crawl space matched perfectly. Find what you're looking for? Ethan nearly knocked over the chair as he spun around. Maggie stood behind him, arms crossed, her diner apron still tied around her waist. "Jesus, Mags," he hissed. "Don't do that." She glanced at the screen, then at the bulge under his jacket. Her eyes narrowed. "What did you do?" Ethan swallowed. He trusted Maggie more than anyone, but this was too big, too dangerous. The library door creaked open. 2 men walked in. One broad shoulder was scar across his eyebrow, the other younger, twitchy. The same voices from house. Ethan's breath caught. Maggie followed his gaze. "Friends of yours?" "Not even close." He grabbed her arm, pulling her behind a bookshelf. "We need to go. Now." She didn't argue. They slipped out the emergency exit, the alarm blaring behind them as they sprinted into the night. Maggie's apartment was above the diner, cramped but warm. Ethan paced the tiny living room while she poured 2 shots of whiskey, her hand steady despite the chaos. "Start talking," she said, pushing a glass toward him. Ethan pulled the painting from his jacket. The colors seemed to glow under the lamplight. Deep blues and fiery oranges, a signature bold in the corner. Maggie whistled low. "That's..." Stolen, Ethan finished. 40 years ago. And those guys back there? They know it's here. Maggie downed her whiskey. So it's a play? Call the cops. And tell them what? That I accidentally found a multi-million-dollar painting in my dead uncle's crawl space? They'll either arrest me or hand it over to some bureaucrat who'll lock it away forever. Then we find out who really owns it, Maggie said firmly. But first we hide it, somewhere nobody will look. Ethan exhaled. She was right. But as he stared at the painting, a darker thought crept in. His uncle had hidden these for a reason. And now, Ethan was caught in the same deadly game. The art of disappearing. The neon sign of Rosie's Diner buzzed outside Maggie's apartment window, casting a flickering pink glow over the stacks of mismatched plates, and unpaid bills scattered across her kitchen table. Ethan sat with his head in his hands, the stolen painting laid carefully between them, its colors humming under the dim light like a live wire. Maggie paced, her sneakers squeaking against the linoleum. Okay, let's think. Who would know about this stuff? An art dealer? A professor? Ethan rubbed his temples. In Rustboro? The closest thing we've got to an art expert is Mrs. Langley, and she thinks Picasso painted dogs playing poker. A sharp knock at the door froze them both. Ethan's pulse spiked. The men from the library wouldn't knock. They'd kick the door down. But that didn't mean they weren't out there, waiting. Maggie grabbed a cast-iron skillet from the stove and crept toward the door. Who is it? It's me, you paranoid gremlin. Ethan sagged in relief at the voice. Lena, Maggie's younger sister, a journalism student at SUNY Albany with a nose for trouble and a habit of showing up unannounced. Maggie yanked the door open. Do you have any idea what time it is? Lena breezed in, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her dark curls a wild halo around her face. Do you have any idea how many times I've called you? She stopped short when she saw Ethan in the painting. Her eyes widened. Oh, Maggie groaned. Lena, no. Is that a de Kooning? Lena dropped her bag and lunged for the table. Ethan threw an arm out, blocking her. How the hell do you know what a de Kooning is? Lena rolled her eyes. I told you I was taking that art crime seminar. That's Woman in a Garden, one of the Whitney theft pieces. She leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. Where did you get this? Maggie and Ethan exchanged a look. They'd kept Lena out of their messes for years, but this was different. Ethan exhaled. My uncle's house. Lena's grin was electric. You're kidding me. That's insane. She grabbed his shoulders. Do you know what this means? It means we're screwed, Maggie muttered. No, it means we win. Lena pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. There's a reward for these. 5 million. And if we can prove your uncle wasn't involved in the theft. Lena, stop. Ethan snatched the phone from her hands. There are people looking for this. Dangerous people. As if on cue, a car engine growled outside. Headlights swept across the curtains. All three of them froze. Maggie crept to the window, peeling back the edge of the blinds. Black SUV. 2 guys inside. They'd been sitting there for 5 minutes. Ethan's stomach twisted. The men from the library. They'd followed them. Lena swallowed hard. Okay, new plan. We disappear. Maggie scoffed. To where? The cabin. Lena looked at Ethan. Dad's old hunting spot. No one knows about it but us. Ethan hesitated. The cabin was a rotting shack in the woods near Lake George, a place they'd gone as kids when their father was still around. No electricity, no neighbors, no roads leading to it. Perfect. Maggie nodded. We go tonight. Pack light. Ethan carefully rolled the painting in a clean dish towel and tucked it into Lena's backpack. His hands were steady now, his mind clear. They could do this. Then the SUV's door slammed outside. Lena's breath hitched. They're coming up. Maggie grabbed her keys. Fire escape. Now. They moved fast, Lena first, then Ethan. The backpack clutched to his chest like a lifeline. Maggie followed, locking the door behind her. The metal stairs shuddered under their weight as they descended into the alley. Above them, a fist pounded on Maggie's apartment door. Open up. Police. Ethan's blood ran cold. Police? Lena grabbed his arm. They're lying. Run. They sprinted through the maze of back alleys, the sound of shouting fading behind them. Ethan's lungs burned, but he didn't stop. Couldn't stop, because now he understood. This wasn't just about money. It was about survival. And the painting in his hands was the only thing keeping him alive. The cabin in the pines. The old pickup truck rattled down the dirt road, its headlights cutting through the thick darkness of the Adirondack woods. Ethan white-knuckled the steering wheel, every muscle in his body tense. Beside him, Maggie stared straight ahead, her jaw set. In the back seat, Lena clutched a backpack containing the painting like it was a bomb about to detonate. No one had spoken for miles. The trees pressing around them, their branches scraping against the truck like skeletal fingers. Ethan hadn't been to the cabin in over a decade, not since Maggie and Lena's father disappeared one winter and never came back. The place was a tomb, frozen in time, just like the secrets buried in its walls. Lena broke the silence first. We should have called the police. Maggie snorted. And told them what? That we're hiding a stolen painting while being chased by fake cops. They could have been real, Lena muttered. Ethan tightened his grip on the wheel. Real cops don't break down doors for a janitor and a diner waitress. The truck hit a pothole, jolting them all. The painting in Lena's backpack thumped against the seat. Maggie exhaled sharply. We need a plan. We can't just hide forever. Ethan didn't answer. The truth was, he didn't have a plan. Just a gut feeling that if they stopped running, they'd end up like his uncle, vanished, with nothing left but a crumbling house full of ghosts. A flicker of light ahead made him slam the brakes. The truck skidded to a stop, dust swirling in the headlights. There, at the end of the overgrown path, stood the cabin. But something was wrong. A single, dim glow shone through the grimy window. Someone was already inside. Ethan killed the engine. The sudden silence was deafening. Maggie reached under her seat and pulled out a tire iron. Options. Lena's voice was barely a whisper. We could leave. And go where? Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. Whoever was in that cabin had found their hiding spot. That meant they were out of places to run. He made a decision. Stay here, he ordered, opening the door. Maggie grabbed his arm. Like hell. The three of them crept toward the cabin, the pine needles crunching underfoot. Ethan's mouth went dry as he peered through the window. An old man sat at the rickety table, a shotgun laid out in front of him. His face was gaunt, his white beard unkempt. But it was his eyes that made Ethan's breath catch, sharp, knowing, and familiar. Maggie gasped, Dad. The man's head snapped up. Ethan barely had time to process before the cabin door flew open, and the barrel of the shotgun stared them down. The old man's voice was rough as gravel. Took you long enough. Inside, the cabin smelled of wood smoke and gun oil. Maggie stood frozen in the doorway, her hand shaking. You're supposed to be dead. Lena looked like she might faint. Their father, Jacob Reyes, lowered the shotgun with a sigh. I was, until your uncle called me 3 months ago. He nodded at Ethan, said he'd found something dangerous. Ethan's skin prickled. The paintings. Jacob's gaze darkened. He didn't steal them. He protected them from the people who did. He reached into his coat and tossed a yellowed photograph onto the table. Ethan picked it up. His uncle stood beside a younger Jacob, both in army uniforms. Behind them, a third man grinned, his face half hidden by shadows, but his wrist clearly visible. A tattoo of a coiled snake, just like the man in the black SUV. Jacob's voice dropped to a whisper. They're coming for what's theirs, and they won't stop until they get it. Outside, an engine roared to life. Headlights flooded the cabin. They'd been followed, and this time there was nowhere left to hide. Blood in the snow. The headlights blinded them. Tires crunched over frozen earth as the SUV skidded to a stop just 20 yards from the cabin. Ethan's body moved before his mind could catch up. He grabbed Lena and yanked her away from the window. Maggie duffed the floor, her father already swinging the shotgun toward the door. Back exit, Jacob barked. Now. Lena clutched the backpack to her chest. We can't outrun them. We don't have to. Jacob tossed Ethan a set of keys. Snowmobile shed. Go! A fist pounded on a cabin door. Police, open up. Jacob Reyes didn't flinch. That's no cop. The door exploded inward. Scarface charging first, his pistol sweeping the room. The younger man followed, his coiled snake tattoo peeking out from his sleeve. Jacob fired. The shotgun blast tore through the cabin. Scarface screamed as a shot ripped into his shoulder, spinning him into the wall. Ethan didn't wait. He shoved Lena toward the back door as Maggie grabbed her father's arm. Dad, come on. They burst into the freezing night. Snow bit at Ethan's face as he sprinted toward the rickety shed, the others close behind. The roar of the shotgun echoed again, followed by a scream, this time cut short. Lena sobbed as she fumbled with the keys. Ethan snatched them from her shaking hands and jammed the right one into the padlock. The shed door creaked open to reveal two ancient snowmobiles, dusted with years of neglect. Will they even start? Maggie gasped. Ethan prayed as he turned the key. The engine coughed, sputtered, then roared to life. Behind them, the cabin door slammed open again. There! A bullet whined past Ethan's ear, splintering the shed wall. He didn't think. He grabbed Lena and threw her onto the snowmobile behind him. Maggie and Jacob piled onto the second machine just as another shot rang out. They shot forward into the trees, snow spraying behind them. The headlights of the SUV swung wildly as their pursuers scrambled to follow. Lena clung to Ethan's waist, her scream lost in the wind. They're coming. Ethan risked a glance back. The SUV was plowing through the underbrush, its high beams cutting through the pines. No way to follow them deep into the woods, but the men inside had guns and rage. Jacob's snowmobile swerved ahead, leading them down a narrow game trail. The trees closing around them, branches whipping at their arms and faces. Then, a gunshot, a scream. Maggie's snowmobile careened sideways as Jacob slumped forward, dark blood spreading across his parka. Dad! Maggie's shriek tore through the night. Ethan slammed his brakes, skidding to a stop. He leapt off, pulling Lena with him as Maggie struggled to hold her father upright. Jacob coughed, red spattering the snow. Take the painting to Clara. Who's Clara? Ethan demanded. But Jacob's eyes had already gone distant. His last breath fogged in the cold air as his head lolled against Maggie's shoulder. The SUV's engine growled closer. Maggie didn't cry. She gently laid her father in the snow and turned to Ethan with fire in her eyes. We make them pay. Ethan nodded. He reached into Lena's backpack and pulled out the stolen masterpiece. The de Kooning seemed to pulse in his hands, its colors vivid even in the moonlight. A 40-year-old secret. A trail of blood leading back to the Whitney heist. And now a reason to fight. The SUV burst through the trees, its headlights pinning them in place. Ethan shoved the painting back at Lena. Run. Then he picked up Jacob's fallen shotgun and stepped into the light. The devil's bargain. The SUV's high beams burned Ethan's eyes as he stood his ground, the shotgun heavy in his hands. Behind him, Lena whimpered, but Maggie was already moving, grabbing her sister's arm and dragging her toward the cover of the pines. Scarface staggered out of the passenger side, one hand clamped over his bleeding shoulder. The driver followed, snake tattoo gleaming under the moonlight, his pistol trained on Ethan's chest. Drop it, Janitor, snake tattoo snarled. Ethan didn't move. The cold metal of the shotgun trigger bit into his finger. He'd never shot a man before. But as the image of Jacob's blood in the snow flashed in his mind, his grip tightened. A twig snapped to his left. Maggie. She'd circled back, her father's hunting knife glinting in her hand. Ethan's pulse roared in his ears. If she attacked now, she'd be gunned down before she took 2 steps. Think. You want the painting? Ethan's voice surprised him, calm, almost amused. It's gone. My friends took it. Scarface spat blood. Bullshit. Ethan tilted his head toward the woods where Lena had disappeared. Checked the backpack. Snake Tattoo hesitated, then gestured with his gun. You first. Walk. The barrel pressed between Ethan's shoulder blades as they marched into the trees. Every instinct screamed to turn and fight, but Maggie was still out there, still armed. They found Lena 50 yards in, curled against a pine tree, the empty backpack beside her. Her terrified eyes met Ethan's, a silent question. Where's the painting? Scarface kicked the bag. Where is it? I told you, Ethan said. Gone. The pistol whipped across his temple. White paint exploded behind his eyes as he crashed to his knees. You're lying, Snake Tattoo hissed. That de Kooning's worth $30 million. You'd never let out of your sight. Through the ringing in his ears, Ethan almost laughed. They didn't know about the other paintings. A shadow moved in the trees behind them. Maggie. Ethan needed to buy time. Who sent you? He groaned. The Whitneys? The FBI. Scarface smirked. We're the FBI. The lie was so brazen, it stunned Ethan silent. These men weren't cops. They were thieves. Killers. And they were about to die. Maggie struck like lightning. Her knife plunged into Scarface's good shoulder, twisting as he screamed. Snake Tattoo spun, firing wildly into the dark. The shot went wide, but Maggie tripped over a root, sprawling into the snow. Ethan lunged. The shotgun blast tore through the night. Snake Tattoo's chest erupted in red. He staggered back, shock widening his eyes, before collapsing beside his partner. Silence. Then, Scarface groaned, fumbling for his fallen pistol. Ethan stepped on his wrist. Who? Sent. You. The man grinned through bloody teeth. You'll find out. His free hand yanked something from his pocket. A phone. Ethan stomped on it, but the damage was done. A single word glowed on the cracked screen before it died. Sent. They'd just called for backup. Lena scrambled up, her face pale. We have to go. Now. Maggie retrieved her knife, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Dad said take it to Clara. Who the hell is Clara? Ethan snapped. The answer came from the woods. Someone you shouldn't have involved. A woman stepped into the moonlight. Mid-60s, steel gray hair, her posture rigid as a soldier's. In her hands, a rifle trained on Ethan's heart. Lena made a choke sound. You're her. The woman's icy gaze never wavered. Clara Whitaker. Former Art Recovery, FBI. She nodded at the bodies. And these men were my partners. Ethan's blood turned to ice. Until they stole the paintings. Clara's finger tightened on the trigger. Now, where's woman in the garden? The truth spilled out before he could stop it. Hidden, Ethan said. Safe. Clara studied him for a long, terrifying moment. Then she lowered the rifle. Good, because if you'd said anything else. She kicked Scarface's limp hand aside, revealing the pistol he'd been reaching for. I'd have known you were lying. Maggie stepped forward, knife still raised. You expect us to believe you? No. Clara's smile was razor thin. I expect you to run. They'll send more men. Better ones. She tossed a set of car keys at Ethan's feet. Take my Jeep. Head south. There's a safe house. A sudden crack split the night. Clara jerked, a red bloom spreading across her chest. She collapsed without a sound. Ethan whirled. Across the clearing, Scarface grinned through bloody teeth, his shaking hand still holding the pistol. Told you? He gasped. You'll find out. Then his head lolled back. Dead. The woods fell silent again. But the message was clear. They were coming. The ghost of the Whitney. The Jeep's heater wasn't working. Ethan's fingers ached from gripping the steering wheel as they barreled down the deserted highway, the pre-dawn light painting the snow-covered pines in shades of blue and gray. In the back seat, Lena clutched Clara's bloodstained notebook like a lifeline. Maggie hadn't spoken since they buried her father in the woods, just sat staring at the rifle across her lap, her knuckles white. Ethan checked the rear-view mirror for the 100th time. No headlights, no sirens, just empty roads stretching into darkness. For now, Lena finally broke the silence. Clara's notes say the paintings were stolen during a security system update at the Whitney. An inside job. She flipped the page, her voice tightening. There were 4 guards on duty that night. 2 were killed. 1 disappeared. And the 4th. Let me guess, Maggie said flatly. Scarface. Ethan's stomach turned. The men who just attacked him had been part of the heist. And now they'd murdered Clara, the one person who might have helped prove Ethan's uncle was involved. Lena kept reading. There's an address here, somewhere in the Catskills. She wrote, last known location next to it. Maggie turned. Of what? The missing guard. Lena's eyes met Ethan's in the mirror, the one who vanished after the heist. The Jeep's tires hummed against the asphalt as Ethan processed this. One guard had walked away from the robbery with blood on his hands and possibly answers. He made a decision. We're going. Maggie's head snapped toward him. Are you insane? We have a multi-million-dollar painting in the trunk and a small army trying to kill us. Exactly. Ethan tightened his grip on the wheel. Right now, we're just rats in a maze. That guard? He's the one who built it. The safe house was an A-frame cabin nestled in a valley so remote, the GPS had given up 10 miles back. Ethan killed the engine, the sudden silence ringing in his ears. No lights, no tire tracks in the fresh snow. Abandoned, or a trap. Lena hugged herself as they approached. What if he's not here? Then we find out where he went, Ethan said. The front door was unlocked. Inside smelled of dust and old tobacco. Maggie swept the rooms with Clara's rifle while Ethan checked the closets. Empty. Then Lena gasped from the kitchen. Ethan rushed in to find her staring at a faded newspaper clipping pinned to fridge. The headline screamed, Guard suspected in Whitney heist vanishes. Below it, a photograph of a young security officer. Clean-cut, solemn. The caption read, Daniel Voss, 28, wanted for questioning. But Ethan wasn't looking at the face. He was looking at the wrist, at the faint but unmistakable outline of a coiled snake beneath the man's sleeve. Son of a bitch, Maggie whispered. The puzzle pieces slammed together. Daniel Voss had helped steal the paintings. Then he'd disappeared, possibly with his cut of the money. But something had gone wrong. The art had ended up with Ethan's uncle. And now, 40 years later, the remaining thieves were cleaning house. A floorboard creaked upstairs. All three of them froze. Ethan grabbed a rusted fireplace poker just as footsteps descended the stairs, slow, deliberate. A figure appeared in the doorway. Not the young man from the photo. An old soldier with hollow cheeks and eyes that had seen too much. Daniel Voss. The rifle in his hands didn't waver as he took them in. I wondered when you'd come. Voss's hand shook as he poured 4 glasses of bourbon, the cabin's lone kerosene lamp casting long shadows. Up close, the years hadn't been kind. Deep lines carved into his face, his once dark hair gone ghost white. But the snake tattoo was still there, faded but visible. Ethan didn't touch his drink. You know why we're here. Voss sighed. The paintings. He took a long swallow of bourbon. I didn't steal them. I saved them. Maggie scoffed. From what? A museum. From them. Voss's eyes darkened. My partners planned to burn the art after collecting the insurance payout. No evidence, no loose ends. He tapped the newspaper photo. Except me. Lena leaned forward. So you took them? I hid them. Voss's gaze flicked to Ethan. Gave one to an old army buddy, your uncle, for safekeeping. The others. He trailed off, his head snapping toward the window. Ethan heard it too. Engines. Multiple. Voss was already moving, yanking open a floorboard to reveal a dusty metal case. Take it. Go out the back. Ethan grabbed the case. Heavy. What is this? The truth. Voss shoved a pistol into Maggie's hands before turning to Lena. You're the smart one. Look for Clara's sister in D.C. She'll know what to do. Headlights flooded the front windows. Voss picked up his rifle. Now run. They fled through the back door just as the first shots rang out. Ethan didn't look back, but the sound of Voss's final stand followed them deep into the woods. A single gunshot, then silence. Lena was crying as they reached the Jeep. They're killing everyone. Ethan threw the metal case into the back seat. Inside lay a single, horrifying answer, a photograph of 4 men standing beside the stolen paintings. Scarface, snake tattoo, Voss, and a 4th man, young, smiling, his wrist bare tattoos. Ethan's blood ran cold. Because he knew that face. Everyone in America did. Congressman Richard Holloway. And he was running for Senate next month. The man who would be king. The Jeep's headlights cut through the pre-dawn gloom as they sped south, the metal case burning a hole between Ethan and Maggie. Lena sat in the back, her face illuminated by the glow of her laptop as she dug into Congressman Holloway's past. "He's untouchable," she whispered, scrolling through news articles. "Sits on the Art Appropriations Committee, major donor to the Whitney, and he's got a 20-point lead in the Senate race." Maggie clenched her jaw. Of course he does. Nothing sells like a tough-on-crime politician who's actually the damn criminal. Ethan's grip on the wheel tightened. The photograph in the case told a damning story. Holloway, standing beside the stolen de Kooning the night it disappeared. But proving it? That was another matter. Lena suddenly stiffened. Wait. Clara's notes mention a sister, Eleanor Whitaker. Worked at the Smithsonian before she retired. She looked up, eyes wide. She lives in D.C., less than 2 hours from here. Maggie and Ethan exchanged a glance. They had nothing else. No allies. No proof beyond a single photo that could easily be dismissed as a forgery. Ethan took the next exit. Eleanor Whitaker's brownstone was a stately relic in a quiet D.C. neighborhood, its brick facade draped in ivy. The woman who answered the door was Clara's mirror image, same steel gray hair, same piercing gaze. But where Clara had carried the hardness of a field agent, Eleanor moved with the quiet precision of a scholar. She took one look at them and sighed. You'd better come inside. Her study was a time capsule of art history, books piled on every surface, faded exhibition posters lining the walls. Eleanor didn't sit, just folded her arms and said, "Show me." Ethan opened the metal case. Eleanor's breath caught when she saw the photograph. "I knew it," she whispered. She turned it over, revealing a handwritten date on the back, March 15th, 1985, the night of the heist. Lena leaned forward. "You knew Holloway was involved?" "I suspected." Eleanor's voice was ice. He was the Whitney's biggest donor at the time, had full access to security blueprints, but without proof. She trailed off, her gaze locking onto the painting Ethan had brought, Woman in a Garden, still wrapped in its dish towel. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. "This changes everything," she breathed. "The paint strokes, the aging, it's verifiable. And if we can link it to Holloway." A sudden thud from the front door cut her off. Then another. Someone was kicking it in. Eleanor moved faster than Ethan would have thought possible for a woman her age. She snatched the painting and photograph and shoved them into a hidden wall safe behind a Monet print. "Out the back. Now." Maggie grabbed Eleanor's arm. "You're coming with us." "No." Eleanor's smile was grim. "I've waited 40 years for this." She pressed a key into Ethan's hand. "Storage locker 214 at Union Station. Everything you need is there." The front door splintered. Eleanor pushed them toward the rear exit just as armed men burst into the foyer. The last thing Ethan saw before the door closed was Eleanor squaring her shoulders, facing down the intruders like a queen defending her throne. They ran through back alleys, the sound of sirens growing louder behind them. Lena was hyperventilating. "They'll kill her." Ethan didn't answer. His mind raced. Holloway wasn't just covering up a theft. He was erasing every loose end before his Senate campaign went full swing. And they were the last threads left dangling. Maggie flagged down a cab. Union Station. Fast. The storage locker was exactly where Eleanor said it would be. Inside, stacks of files, a vintage camera, and a single unmarked VHS tape. Lena popped the tape into an old player on the shelf. The grainy footage showed a younger Holloway laughing with the other guards, his hand resting possessively on woman in a garden. Then the camera panned to a ledger, dates, amounts, names. A smoking gun. Maggie exhaled sharply. This is it. This proves everything. Ethan's phone buzzed. An unknown number. He answered. A familiar voice, smooth, polished, dripping with false concern, said, "Mr. Cole, we need to talk." Richard Holloway. Ethan's blood ran cold. "How did you get this number?" A chuckle. Eleanor was very cooperative once we explained the stakes. A pause. "I'll give you the same choice I gave her. Walk away and your friends live. Pursue this and..." The line went dead. On the locker's small TV, Holloway's face froze in mid-laugh. A man who'd gotten away with murder. Ethan looked at Maggie and Lena. They were out of time, out of options, and out of mercy. He grabbed the tape. "Let's end this." The last gallery. Rain sheeted against the windows of the abandoned textile factory on the outskirts of D.C., the rhythmic patter masking the creak of rotting floorboards as Ethan, Maggie, and Lena crept through the shadows. The address Holloway had texted, a supposed meeting place, was clearly a trap, but so was a VHS tape burning a hole in Ethan's jacket pocket. Maggie checked her father's pistol, her jaw set. He'll have men. Lots of them. Lena adjusted the hidden camera in her glasses. A last-ditch insurance policy from Eleanor's locker. Doesn't matter. If we can get him to admit it on tape. A sudden flood of lights cut her off. The factory's cavernous space blazed alive, industrial lamps revealing a surreal sight. The stolen paintings, all four of them, displayed on makeshift easels in the center of the room. And standing before them, arms spread like a ringmaster, was Congressman Richard Holloway. The janitor, the waitress, and the girl. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I was starting to think he wouldn't come. Ethan stepped forward, his pulse roaring. Where were the guards? The guns? This was too easy. Holloway gestured to the paintings. Beautiful, aren't they? Worth more dead than alive, ironically. He chuckled at his own joke. The insurance payout funded my first campaign, you know. Maggie's grip tightened on her pistol. Where's Eleanor? Gone. Holloway's smile faded. Like you'll be, unless you're smarter than she was. A flicker of movement above them. Ethan glanced up just as snipers revealed themselves on the catwalks, laser sights dancing across their chests. Lena's breath hitched. Holloway sighed. The tape, please. Ethan hesitated. The moment he handed it over, they were dead. But the snipers left no room for heroics. Then he noticed it. A single painting was slightly crooked on its easel. Woman in a garden. The frame wasn't flush. A fake. Holloway didn't have all four. Ethan's mind raced. If he could buy time. You win, he said loudly, pulling the tape from his pocket, but dropping it, letting it clatter to the floor. Oops. As Holloway's gaze flicked downward, Ethan lunged. Chaos erupted. Maggie fired at the catwalks as Ethan tackled Holloway. The congressman's veneer cracked, his polished demeanor giving way to raw panic as they crashed into the paintings. Kill them, he screamed. A bullet whizzed past Ethan's ear as he rolled, dragging Holloway up as a human shield. Call them off, he snarled, pressing Maggie's pistol to Holloway's temple. The snipers hesitated. Lena scooped up the fallen VHS tape, her glasses capturing every second. It's over, she panted. We've got you. All of it. Holloway laughed, high and unhinged. You think this matters? I own the FBI. The DA. Spittle flew from his lips. I'll be sworn in as senator before your bodies are cold. Then, sirens. Dozens of them, screeching to a halt outside. Holloway froze. What? Ethan grinned. Eleanor's last move. The doors burst open. Not FBI. Reporters. A swarm of cameras flooded in, capturing the surreal scene. The disgraced congressman, the stolen masterpieces, the smoking gun in Lena's hands. Holloway's face went slack with horror, live on national television. As the police moved in, Ethan finally released him, stepping back to where Maggie and Lena stood trembling. It was over. Almost. Because across the room, half hidden behind a crate, Ethan spotted it. The real woman in the garden, its colors vibrant even in the chaos. Waiting to come home. The janitor's masterpiece. The morning sun streamed to the towering windows of the Whitney Museum, casting golden light across the polished floors where Ethan Cole now stood. Not as a janitor, but as a guest of honor. 6 months had passed since that rain-soaked night in the factory, but the memories still hummed in his bones like a live wire. Reporters swarmed around him, their cameras flashing. Mr. Cole, how does it feel to see the paintings returned after 40 years? Ethan adjusted his tie, a gift from Maggie, and smiled. Like justice. And it was. Holloway sat in a prison cell, his political empire reduced to courtroom sketches and scandal headlines. The recovered accounings had been authenticated and restored, now hanging in their rightful place for the world to see. Maggie nudged him, her voice low. You clean up nice, dust rag. Lena, now interning at the Smithsonian thanks to Eleanor's posthumous recommendation, grinned as she adjusted her glasses. Still can't believe you turned down the reward money. Ethan shrugged. The $5 million bounty had seemed meaningless compared to what he'd gained, a life beyond mop buckets and mocking laughter. The Whitney had offered him a job as a security consultant, a role he took seriously after outsmarting one of the greatest art heists in history. But the real treasure stood beside him. Maggie squeezed his hand as the museum director approached, clearing her throat for crowd. Before we unveil the final piece, we'd like to acknowledge the bravery of Ethan Cole, Maggie Reyes, and Lena Reyes, without whom these masterpieces might have been lost forever. Polite applause rippled through the room. Then, with a dramatic flourish, the curator pulled the velvet drape from the last painting, Woman in a Garden, its bold strokes as powerful as the day they were painted. Ethan exhaled. It was over, or maybe just beginning. As the crowd dispersed, an elderly woman in a Chanel suit approached, her cane tapping against a marble. "Mr. Cole," she said warmly, "I knew your uncle during the war. He'd be proud." Ethan blinked. "You knew him?" She smiled, pressing a small envelope into his hand before melting into the crowd. Inside was a single key and a faded address, somewhere in the Swiss Alps. Maggie peered over his shoulder. "Please tell me that's not another cursed painting." Ethan laughed, tucking the key away. Some mysteries could wait. For now there was sunlight, there was art, and there was, for the first time in too long, hope. If the story inspired you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life tales of ordinary people who changed their destinies. And remember, sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden in plain sight. Share your thoughts in the comments below. The end.